All right, happy International Women's Day. This year's theme is Women in Leadership, Achieving an Equal Future in a COVID-19 World. So we thought it'd be fitting to talk to some of the women champions of Aprimo. My name's Noah Horberg. I'm a marketing specialist here at Aprimo, have been with the company for a couple years now. And Anna, go ahead.
My name is Anna Lantiwa, and I'm our Global ISV Manager here at Aprimo. I've been with Aprimo for the past year. And we're joined today by Petra.
Yeah, Petra, do you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. So my name is Petra Tant. I work, as you can hear, in the European division of Aprimo, and I'm actually in charge of the strategy of our content cloud. Or I like to joke and say I'm the damn strategist.
Love that. All right, so let's dive in. So Petra, what made you decide to go into the tech industry?
That's funny because I actually didn't decide that. So when I left school in '89, there wasn't really a tech industry. So there were also no school tracks which you could do to prepare yourself for a tech industry. So I came out of school with a degree in graphic business management. So my focus was actually to go and manage a printing shop or a pre-press shop, right? But when I left school, I was so focused. I didn't want to go in the operational side. I wanted to go and work at the supplier side, so a vendor to that industry. And so I started looking around for jobs. And because the tech industry started, so we had a local startup who made software for the graphic arts industry, and they came to our school to ask for people to join the club because obviously they couldn't recruit on a specific area in school because that didn't exist. So they came and to the school and said what they were doing or tried to do and make software. That interested me enormously. So I went for the job and got it. And so I started immediately out of school in the software, and they made software for packages and labels. So that was close to what I had studied. But later on, actually, I joined a startup that was in the early 90s. A real dot-com startup of 3 people who started making software for the Apple Macintosh computers. And from there, that was Artwork Systems. And from there, a small decade later, a large decade later, I actually rolled into a dam company, which is now Aprimo. And so I just adopted to the software world, not completely conscious when I made the step from the graphic art software development into the DAM software development, that it would actually be such a drastic changeover and change my world from being very graphically focused to actually pure IT tech. But it's fun. It keeps you on your toes.
Yeah, that's awesome that you went into an industry that you didn't even, know you would be so interested in. That's awesome.
Yeah, but so all the people who are in their 50s, when you look around you, didn't study or make distinct choices to go to tech. That's different. All the developers here from my age are people who studied math or physics or chemistry or astronomy even, but they never got a starter pack to come in this industry. They just migrated or mutated with the world.
And Petra, it sounds a lot like it's a learn as you go process. Your background was in graphic design and then moving into software as a service, getting to see that entire journey. Is there anyone that you've seen within just the tech industry in general that has really inspired you throughout your journey?
some people in particular, but also I can answer the question very generically. So in the early 90s, I went to work for this startup, and these were three people who actually gave up their normal job, their regular job, because they were convinced that they could make production software on an Apple Macintosh. And in that time, it was completely unproven. And so these were the three owners of Artwork Systems, the people I went to work with. I was their first employee. And I must say, they probably inspired me most in my whole career, because they yeah, locked themselves up in a garage and developed for a year in a belief that they could do something which was unproven and visionary. And um, obviously there was a whole dot-com boom in that time, but all these people who see a solution which isn't proven, which isn't there, and just follow their heart and go for it and put everything at stake for this. That's basically the people who inspire me the most. You need a lot of gut to do that, a lot of spank.
That's awesome. I mean, working with people that are so hardworking and have that drive must, just really spark that within you. I mean, that's incredible.
Sounds like a vision to be a part of.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, I'm sure that starting at a startup had so many challenges in itself, but, kind of more specifically, what challenges have you faced as a woman in the industry, in especially being in such a male dominated field, as tech is?
Yeah, it may sound a cliche, but I thought a lot about this question. But my biggest challenge to work as a woman in a I won't say a male dominated industry. It was for a long time. Now it isn't anymore, I think. But my biggest challenge was actually becoming a mom. Having a child and having to decide whether you're going to keep on going, and or if you want to put your career ambition aside and pull back and be home more. And that's the biggest challenge, I think, for women. And it's not something you can change.
Yeah.
Petra, I think that jumps in perfectly. Again, this year's theme for International Women's Day is Women in Leadership, Achieving an Equal Future Amidst COVID-19 World. So what is that one piece of advice that you would give women who are juggling work from home and that work-life balance, especially with children?
Yeah, so for all the women who get pregnant and who have to make a decision, so you have to, and everyone makes their personal decisions in this. This is a real personal decision. And but you have to take into account that your children are only borrowed or on loan, because when they're 15, you don't see them a lot, and they only need you the first 12 years of their life. So you have to make a decision. What are you going to do after the 12 years? That 12 years can have a lot of impact on your career, on your work future. But if you do decide, like I did, to actually not to step back, but to continue working, you should exhaust the services, all the service you can take, and not feel bad about it. So you need good or better daycare, which you can count on when you're stuck in traffic or stuck in a meeting. If you're then home in the weekend, don't try to do your laundry and your ironing. Use a service for that. Surround yourself with good people and good services, and so that your children feel well and you feel well, and when you're home, that you have time to be home and not burdened with all the rest which is still waiting there for you. And so whatever And another advice is whatever you decide, don't feel bad about it. People will criticize, people who have a different opinion. Your parents will criticize that you're not more with your children when they're ill. And you will feel torn between your children and your work as long as they're home. It won't stop. You'll feel a bad mom when you're at work and they're sick, and you'll feel like you're not achieving a lot at work when you stay home because they're ill. It's such a cliche, but don't feel bad about it and exhaust your services. That's basically my best advice.
Petra, in your lifetime, have you seen companies start to take a stronger stance on the services they offer mothers in the workforce?
The companies I've worked for, not. But you see a trend. So definitely in Europe, there is a trend that dads do as much than women when it comes to the unforeseen things, school vacations, illnesses, also maternity leave or paternity leave here in Europe is really coming to a level where it's also used by men. So we see a trend that the dads are taking as much responsibility as the women. But obviously, you can't change the fact that the women have to get pregnant and have to and get the hormones and have to give birth. You can't take that out of the equation, but it's improving a lot.
Yes, well, so generally the question is, what progress have you seen on gender equality in your life and work? So if not specifically, progress within, being a mother specifically at work or having to balance the children, but, has there been other progress in gender equality?
Yeah, now I remember what I was going to say. So, although it wasn't probably meant as a measure for gender equality, the way we interact with each other on the work floor, and I mean interact as teams, but also differences between women and men is disappearing. In the beginning of my careers, seminars started late and ended late, and they didn't care if you had to go and fetch your child at 6. They just didn't care. It was fun. They were all men or 90% men. Who cares? Now the trend is everybody respects each other's time. Whether you're a woman or a man, things start on time, end on time. You come prepared. There's a whole different interaction in business in general that makes it easier to organize your agenda, and it also impacts the way we interact with each other. I think it's all more. There's like a business etiquette around working together, which does not differentiate men and women, which makes it much easier now to work in general. Obviously, I'm becoming older. I have less burdens at home, obviously. That may also impact the way I look at it now. Because my stressful days are over, and definitely with COVID, we can do more from home, organize more from home. It's easier, so it's more peaceful.
Well, I love that point that you're drawing, Petra, about the idea that the more that we can foster respecting each other's time in the workplace, how that is a great equalizer across all fronts, male or female.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that dives in perfectly to this next question, which is, and I know that you stated within Belgium, there's still a lot of work to be done, but there are so many things to solve for to continue towards gender equality today. But if you had to choose one to solve for today, what would that be? I know. The entire can of worms.
The one I would like to solve is unsolvable. Don't make women pregnant anymore. Or let the dads be pregnant also, or have the choice at least.
I'm all
I
for
know
that.
it sounds like a cliche, but for me, that's probably the best thing. So, because otherwise, to be honest, I don't feel there is a in my work environments. I have been over the last 30 years. I have never had a feeling that I had, as a woman, had to work more than my male colleagues. So I am definitely not. I have no experience with environments where there is no equality, except about the personal family arrangements, obviously. So I wouldn't say what could we do. So we see a lot of legislation actually here in our country, that, or in Europe even, that you need as much men as women. Your board needs to have as much men as women in the board. Politicians can only exist half men, half women in political groups. So I'm a bit critical about that, because I think if you can do the job, you should get it, indifferent of if you're male or female. Well, it feels a bit wrong, but I understand for some industry segments, probably this makes a difference. But one should not forget that for certain types of jobs, females have more affinity, and for certain environments to work in, men have more affinity. And I think that's still fair. You shouldn't take that or try to get rid of that. So in Belgium, nurses are mostly female. IT is mostly male, although it changes now. But I don't think we should try to change that extremely. We just need to safeguard that everyone has a standing chance, or the same chance.
So, you did just mention that you were one female out of, so many men in your department. So, what advice would you give young women out there when it comes to guaranteeing respect and voice within a workplace? So, be it, if they are one woman versus many men, or just, in general, how do you guarantee that?
Ignore it. Ignore the fact that you're the only woman in the men's world, and respect and voice you respect you're getting automatically by pulling your weight and doing your job just like the male colleagues do. And this is advice for young people, not just for young women. Respect is not something you earn. I think you get that when you're doing your job well, and when you're transparent. Transparency is also important. Also, if we do talk male and female here, if as a woman you feel somebody is trespassing on your boundaries, do not assume that they know. They may not have the emotional intelligence or the feeling that they are trespassing. Just transparently communicate and say what you feel, and say, I feel a bit strange, or be friendly about it, and define your own zone, but really be respectful and transparent. But this is also when you're dealing with people and doing your job. Look around your male colleagues. You have to work as hard as you do, and feel sometimes just an imposter like you are sometimes. So everyone has that same anxiety, and there is no difference. So if you are the only woman around the table, ignore it. And just continue with your business. I've done this and I've been really happy. The only thing I miss, obviously, when I've traveled a lot. So I always traveled with male colleagues. And I was used to that. And a couple of years ago, actually, just since since we are Aprimo and I had to come to the States, I had the chance to travel with a female colleague on our own. And I must say, that was particularly fun after all these years traveling with male colleagues. But otherwise, just ignore it.
Yeah, no, I love that. I mean, do your job, do it well, and you'll be respected. And yeah, I love that. You'll be successful in that. So thank you for that. That's awesome. Well, Petra, thank you so much for sitting down with us and answering all these questions and showing us how you really are a true female champion of Aprimo. Seriously, the work that you do is incredible, and we have so much respect for you, especially as young women in this industry as well. So thank you.
Yeah, Petra, getting to hear your journey and the way I think you gave us a lot to think about on this front as well. But really, I just love the points that you drew around the great equalizers of do your job, do it well, like Noah said, and like you said, as well as just respect for all of our colleagues, right? It really does come down to, yeah, it's wonderful. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Yay, that was awesome.